Hi there, and welcome to my presentation about Dr. Edward Taub. So, what do we know about Dr. Edward Taub? Well, according to Google, not too much. We don't really know about what got him into science in his childhood, or like what were his interests growing up or hobbies or anything. But we do know that he graduated from Brooklyn College, got his master's at Columbia University, and a PhD from New York University, all of these in the field of psychology. He practices primarily in the field of cognitive or behavioral psychology and is specifically focused on stroke patients as well as those with traumatic brain injury, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, and other neurological injuries. Dr. Taub is particularly famous for an experiment that he conducted working with macaque monkeys, and basically the experiment consisted of him severing afferent nerves that sent information to the brain from extremities. And the aim of this experiment was to determine if the monkeys could no longer use the affected appendage because they were physically incapable, or was it because it was easier for the monkeys to rely on their good arm to help them survive, and so therefore they didn't have to use the affected arm because the good one allowed them to get by. This is a concept known as learned non-use. And so Taub took this idea and applied it to his clinical patients and found that it worked fairly well with stroke patients, and he developed the type of therapy known as constraint-induced therapy. In this therapy, subjects' good arms are restrained and they're forced to use their bad arm, which induces cortical plasticity. This kind of therapy also consists of isolating the affected part of the body and repetitive practice of individual tasks, massed practice, as well as high repetition in a short amount of time. This type of therapy showed that the undamaged areas of the brain in a stroke patient are able to compensate for the lack of function in the damaged areas, a key indicator of brain plasticity. Constraint-induced therapy also increases axonal growth post-stroke. Even individuals suffering from aphasia can benefit from constraint-induced therapy. This was significant at the time because it contradicted the reflexological theory of movement and showed that the brain, not just spinal reflexes, were commanding motor behavior. Part of the reason he was so famous with this experiment was also because it was at the center of a lot of controversy. Dr. Taub was a main component in the Silver Spring monkey case. Basically what happened was Taub was performing experiments with 17 macaque monkeys to see if they'd be able to use their limbs after their afferent nerves had been severed. One of the founders of PETA became involved undercover and was able to get the police to issue a warrant against Taub. Taub fought this legal battle for nearly 10 years before all of his charges were dropped, and after the event it was tough for him to find a job until he got an offer from the University of Alabama, Birmingham, where he teaches to this day. He works as a professor and is the director of the Constraint-Induced Therapy Research Group and Taub Training Clinic. The most recent paper Dr. Taub is an author on has to do with analyzing the study design and methodological considerations of the BRAVE project, which is a veteran rehabilitation group using constraint-induced therapy. The second most recent paper Dr. Taub is an author on, however, has to do with white matter in chronic stroke patients. The title of the paper is called Relation of White Matter, Hyperintensities and Motor Deficits in Chronic Stroke. They examine the relationship between white matter hyperintensity load, among other factors, and upper extremity motor deficit in patients with mild to moderate chronic stroke. They did this using magnetic resonance images of 28 patients, and they found that white matter hyperintensity predicted motor deficits in both real-world arm use and in arm motor capacity, as measured by a lab motor function test. What I admire most about Dr. Taub is his resilience and his ability to fight for what he believes in, because although the treatment of those monkeys may not have been the most ethical or moral, and perhaps violated some research rules, I still respect the way that he fought the nearly 10-year-long legal battle after, just to regain his ability to do research and work in that specific field. I also admire his commitment to health and helping others improve their lives, because what he was working on was a really important and really beneficial treatment for many, many people who had their quality of life has been reduced significantly after their stroke or traumatic brain injury. And so he's really doing a great service to all these people who are benefiting from his types of therapy and his research in general. That is my presentation. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good night. Peace out.